Hello, everybody. How you doing? This is Sakoni Prince, and we are here for another episode of Next Level Leadership Summit, the podcast. And we are doing interviews with some of the top leaders in their industry. And I have none other than my good friend, Justin Morgan, and he's going to tell you a little bit about himself and what he brings to the table. Justin?
Hey, I appreciate you having me here today. Again, it's good to speak to you on another show, man. And I'm hoping we can do more of these
Yes,
going
sir.
forward. But so y'all know me. I'm Justin Morgan, founder of AutomationMaster.net. And simply, I help coaches and speakers create automated systems that save time and generate more revenue.
And that's what I'm talking about. Making the money, getting the bag, raking in the door, as they say. Well, man, listen, I know that you have had a lot of lessons that you've learned, even getting to where you are right now. And so, in this first segment, we want to talk a little bit about personal development and what have you learned or what have you done on a personal standpoint that has helped you see the amount of success that you have so far.
Right. Now, obviously, there's a lot of information out there in the personal development space. And I'll just say for all of you, anyone listening, it's about finding you, right? Like at the end of the day, developing yourself is about finding yourself. And there are different ways to do it and mold yourself, which is why I think the example I'm gonna give y'all real quick is actually pretty cool. So you're on YouTube, right, Sakoni?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So um, just so y'all, I don't know, how many channels have you started on YouTube? Just the one?
I've only
Yeah, like
started
more than
one,
one.
just one. Yeah.
One? Okay. So I'm on I think this is my fourth YouTube channel right now.
Wow.
Um, and so my last one, which was under a different brand, this was when I was just starting out, had the series that was called, I did a challenge. It was either every Monday or every month. I had a monthly or weekly challenge that I did.
Okay.
And they were always something that made me uncomfortable, right? Down, like some of them were as simple as I took a cold shower every day for a week. Another one, like I fasted for one of the other more like tougher ones was I fasted. I think I did a water fast for I want to say like 10 days or something like that. It was either for 7 days or 10 days. I don't remember.
Wow.
And then there's some other things in between. So if y'all want to check out the old channel, you can. It doesn't really matter. But if you want examples, but the idea was I wanted to make myself uncomfortable in as many different ways as possible to find out a couple key things. One, when you challenge yourself to do a bunch of weird stuff, and I don't say weird like hot sauce challenge kind of stuff,
Right.
but actual development, testing and experimenting on yourself, you start to find out things that work for you. And so you start to find out what style works for you, what food works for you, because not every, like, folks say, hey, you got to have the right diet, stuff like all that stuff. Even that is experiment, right? So what one thing may work for one person may not work for another.
Right.
And so it became this way to test and just see what works for me. And then when I found out what works for me, then it made it easier to develop in that lane because I understood what lane I needed to be in.
Right. Right.
So part of developing is understanding what you do. And part of it is first, because you got to make yourself uncomfortable, which is what I did. So again, finding out about me. And then secondly, getting a chance to be uncomfortable on a regular basis in order to grow. You can't, there's only so much growth you can do when you're comfortable, right? We all been there, down from we're kids to adults. There's always scenarios that make us uncomfortable that we either step into or shy away from. And so when you are constantly challenging yourself, it don't have to be anything crazy. You have to go and be David Goggins and decide you're gonna, run a 50-mile marathon like that.
Right.
That's not what I'm saying. Just find something that's uncomfortable and just do it on a regular basis. Now, the last thing that you really discover from this and how it relates to success in any area is possibility. Right. So when I did my water fast, I didn't think it was possible to go without eating solid food for as long as I did. And I want to say it was 7 days as my memory is coming back.
Right.
I didn't think at first, before I did any of this stuff, that I'd make it through a day, let alone I'm a fat boy at heart, right? Like fat
Okay.
boy at heart. And so uh the idea that I could make it an entire week, let alone a day, was just unthought of. And so
Right.
it pushed the boundary of what was possible for me. And so that breakage of possibility is that breakage of the limit is what allows me to be able and be more comfortable doing other things that relates to my health, as it relates to my patience, as it relates to my discipline. And it's all because I did something that was uncomfortable and I went further than I ever thought I could. And I think when folks go further than they thought they could, it starts to open up new doors for them.
Right. Right. That's true. And doing that voluntarily, you have a chance to kind of measure and throttle that process. Whereas some people, they are thrust into situations involuntarily, and then they find themselves not with the fortitude to carry it through. But when you've made up your mind that you want to grow, you want to expand, you want to experience new things, and you want to challenge yourself, doing that voluntarily, it helps you in a controlled environment, if you will, understand what you're capable of. Understand what your limits are, and then push them. I think a lot of people really don't take time to even find out what their limits are, let alone go beyond them. They're so
Mm-hmm.
they're so happy being in a comfort zone that they aren't willing to actually stretch and go past those. So man, that's definitely something that a lot of people need to do. I tell people all the time, we need to evaluate ourselves in a non-threatening moment. Okay? In a non-threatening moment, we need to do it in such a way to where we can actually learn some things and work through a process. Because again, when you're thrust into a situation, it's either fight or flight. You're in survival mode at that moment, at that point. And so you oftentimes leave the lessons. But if you voluntarily push yourself and put yourself in a position to where you have to stretch and have to grow, you have an opportunity to see what you're capable of, to see what you are willing to do. And really, like you said, you find yourself in that process. And so, man, that is incredible. Now, look, we want to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about how the lessons that you've learned translate to that of leadership or leading others. So we'll be right back.
The wait is finally over for Saucony's most anticipated book of the year, Leadership That Lasts, passing on 10 solid principles to ensure an enduring legacy. Powerful, effective, impactful, helpful, dynamic, phenomenal, transformative, life-changing. Available now in Amazon. Order yours today.
And we're back. Man, if you missed the first half of this, which I hope you did, you should definitely go back and check it out. But if you really want to understand more about what made Justin who he is, and some of the things he did in order to grow to the point that he is, go back and listen to that. But now we're going to look at how Justin, what he learned, stretching himself and growing himself, how he used those same principles, those same tools and techniques to help lead others. So Justin, tell us a little bit about how you are able to actually inspire, direct, and encourage other people based upon stuff you've done yourself.
It's about example. It comes down to having an example now. And I think this is a perfect segue from kind of where I left things off, because what a leader does is they're willing to be the one to be uncomfortable in order to give others comfort. Right. And so if you're not willing to be the one to take on the discomfort, meaning the uncertainty, the responsibility, the duty of making decisions when you don't know whether it's going to work out or not, then that very much was in line with the challenges I was doing. It was going out and doing something uncomfortable before others were giving me permission or telling me to do it. And what, again, I also learned in terms of capability, is, again, just to be able to push yourself. So kind of taking that same energy, right, in terms of understanding what I could do, that I could push myself further.
Right.
Getting into this, okay, when I first started out, worked under a couple of mentors who put me through the ringer. Like, it was the exact definition of challenge. Now, like you're saying before, this wasn't challenged by choice. This
Right.
was having my foot put to the fire.
Trial by
And
fire.
so,
Huh?
exactly. And definitely got pushed into red zones that I had never expected myself to be in.
Wow.
But because I had already put myself through some of that discipline and punishment through those challenges, being an athlete growing up, it allowed me to prepare for those things. Right. And what I realized, like even with football, I was named a captain because I was the example. I showed up on time. I left late. I worked out multiple times of the day. I carried myself the right way. I knew what I was talking about. Didn't have to demand to be a leader. They elected me to be the leader. Right. I earned that respect. Right. Even in the business world, and here's what I've kind of explained what the process should be, or at least what it comes down to, is that first you start out as a servant. Right. And I know that sounds bad, and folks are like, hey, I don't want to serve anybody. But first, you start out as a servant. The servant becomes a teacher, because initially, after you serve, and this is what I did, you start to teach because you picked up so much. Right. The teacher, then, because they know their stuff and they're acting by example, they become the leader, not because they demand to become the leader, but when you teach, other folks start to come to you, right? Looking for help. And if you do that often enough, then usually 9 times out of 10, you become a leader. And that's only because you moved into spaces of discomfort. Serving is not comfortable, and it can be challenging. And then teaching the first time, it can be extremely challenging and uncomfortable. And then when you get pushed into that leadership role, again, it becomes another space of, look, you got challenged, you got pushed, and you accepted and met those challenges, and that led you into that leadership role. So I think it ties in. Being challenged ties in very well to your capability to become a leader or not.
Yeah, that's true. You know, I think about, in fact, when I put on my first event, my first summit, I had no clue what I was doing. But yet I jumped in, I volunteered, and I found out something, going back to what you said about finding yourself, by me voluntarily doing that. Not somebody laying it on me, not somebody telling me you're going to do this, but by me stepping up and saying, I'm going to do it. I found out something about myself. And what I found out was that I have a problem with consistency. And what I mean by a problem with consistency is I think I'm too consistent. I'm serious. I have to be careful what I say yes to, because I'm like a bulldog. Once I lock on, it's over. I mean, it's over. So, but see, knowing that about myself and finding that out about myself, I'm now more selective at the things that I say yes to. Because normally when I say yes, I'm all in. I mean, most of the time, like you said, 99% of the time, I'm all in. Now, there's some time when I said yes to some stuff that wasn't really in my best interest, and I had to walk some stuff back. But for the most part, I try to make sure that, just like you said, I start serving. And then, in fact, from the serving aspect, because you've served and you've learned some stuff, you can start teaching, you can start sharing information. But then after that, you become the go-to person. So you become the leader, and just, but all of that comes from that personal aspect, that personal development, because you really can't step into that leadership role without having stepped into the personal development role. And that's one of the reasons why, for me, these two go hand in hand, personal development and leadership, because to me, personal development is leading yourself. But of course, leadership development is leading others. But you can't lead others until you learn how to lead yourself.
Right.
You can't demand stuff of others when you haven't demanded of yourself. And so what you said was really spot on. And again, another way of just explaining, what I already know. And I know that my listeners, they've gotten a new perspective on what it means to be a leader. And I really liked your breakdown of service, teaching, and being leading. Some people just want to jump out front but they haven't gone through that process. And so they can't relate to the people that are in the servant role or people in the teacher's role. So yeah, man, some good stuff. Hey, man, listen, I know you got some stuff coming up. What is it that you have going on that you want to share with the audience?
Well, right now, I'm challenging all speakers, all coaches, especially if you right now are in a exec level field, you've been an expert for years, and you're getting ready to get into the coaching or speaking space. I'm challenging you all to hit your first 5-figure, your first 10K mark in your business. I know that sounds like, hey, Justin, it's simple, but guess what? How many folks in this space have taken 3, 4, 5 years just to hit that mark in business, right? So I'm pushing my clients right now to hit that 10K mark over in the amengine.com program. So go ahead and check it out. There's actually a free training you can get access to if you go to the amengine.com. That's A as in Apple, M as in Mary, engine.com. Go ahead and check out the free training. If you like it, then you can talk to us further. If not, go out and do something with it and go be amazing.
Okay. All right. Well, cool, man. We are excited to be able to share that information with everybody. And man, I want to thank you for just agreeing to be on this podcast, be on this show, and just really help us to understand the connection or the collaboration between personal development and leadership development. So man, for that, I want to say thank you again.
You're welcome. Appreciate you having me here.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you so much. So listen, that's going to do it for our show this week. And if you have any questions or anything, I'm going to put Justin's link in this video or around this podcast. You can check it out. And you definitely, I would say, reach out to him because he definitely knows his stuff. And he's somebody that you need to know to help you get your business to where it needs to be. And look, this is Sakoni Prince of Next Level Leadership Summit Podcast. And we want to say that you too can also lead the way. We'll talk to you later. Bye.